As Mr. Van Auken said, what is up, everybody? Along with my dog scratching his collar, Aaron the dog guy is back along with Lucky Locks for another Contender Series week here on the channel. We're on week 4, about 40%. Actually, are 40% of the way through the season. We're going to have 10 weeks, and looks like close to 50 contracts are going to be handed out. Everybody but Mo Miller. Everybody but Mo Miller is getting a contract this year. Which, if you had told me that before, I would have been like, there's no way. Mo Miller, if he wins, is getting in the UFC. But Mo Miller found the one way to win and avoid getting in the UFC. But either way, Lucky Locks, how you doing today?
Doing great, man. I'm happy to be here. Excited to chop it up, talk about some Contender Series Week 4.
Yeah, and I'm going to start putting this in the title. I actually did edit it in. First of all, Miz, as always, what up? Great to see you here. Yeah, Miz is a legend. He's at all these breakdown shows. Appreciated. He follows me way back to when I was on UFC Gambling Addicts before I was unceremoniously locked out of the YouTube sign-in, and he took the sign-in after about 5K subs. So shout out to Layton. But either way, we got to move on. But yeah, it's been a good Contender Series so far. Last week we did pretty well. I think we each missed one or two. But yeah, overall, yeah, it's definitely. I've heard this a lot. Beginning of this year, Contender Series bad for betting. Definitely not. It's been fantastic, especially if you're not just going all favorites, which I don't think ever was the thing with the Contender Series. But luckily, with our Contender Series breakdown, this is the only one I'm aware of that takes place after the weigh-ins. So there's a little extra niche. At this point, it's funny. The first week, did you notice there weren't as many Contender Series breakdowns as there are in week 4 all of a sudden? Or is it just me, like, being paranoid here? I feel like everybody's got a Contender Series breakdown now that they realize, like, there's money to be made.
Yeah, well, it's definitely a niche that not too many people were in before, so I feel like a lot of people are looking to take advantage of that, and yeah, getting a lot of good Contender Series content out there nowadays.
I mean, you're getting a head start on not only – first of all, these are bettable fights a lot of times, but you're getting a head start on – these guys are all getting signed and fighting in like a month or two. I mean, we just saw Duriev, who I was super wrong on in that fight, by the way, super wrong on being cautious about that one. But he just got signed. I mean, Duriev is the new Amari Akhmedov. I know he looks like him, but he also fights like him. It's literally like they just de-aged Amari Akhmedov, apparently. But yeah, it's been great. I do think there's been one or two contracts I've been like, but whatever. I mean, I think overall they're getting rid of a few guys. They just got rid of Roosevelt Roberts finally, who was the prospect that never was, and Anderson Dos Santos, a few other guys. So definitely making room. But yeah, I'm excited. We only got 5 fights this week, but better than 4. This one I would say is probably the weakest of the Contender Series so far this year. Just overall, maybe there's one or two surprise talents. I think particularly the flyweight bout we're looking at. I think a very interesting prospect, whoever comes out of that one. But I mean, the main event we'll get to it, but the main event's kind of strange, hard to read, and just overall, this is probably gonna be the lightest I bet a Contender Series so far, and I've been pretty adamant as a degenerate of betting them like crazy. But we're here to break it down. I have watched the weigh-ins now, thanks to you, Lucky Locks, for pointing that out to me. Had no idea before this, so we're going to bark for a second because the door gets opened, of course, but it's all good. Aaron the dog is called Aaron the dog for a reason, but we'll go ahead and hop in here. Aaron the dogs is what I should call it. We'll go ahead and hop in here with Jacob Rosales. This is fun for us. We're LFA dudes. We know Jacob Rosales. We've broken down Jacob Rosales a lot. And I will admit, first and foremost, I get Jacob Rosales and Jerome Rivera very, very confused. They both have a very similar look to them, both appearance-wise and fighting-wise. And I'll kind of get to that with Jerome Rivera here in a minute. But he's taking on Victor Martinez. It's funny, the picture of Victor Martinez looks nothing like the Victor Martinez that weighed in just now. So this was taken a few years ago, but I mean, I really did not recognize Victor Martinez when he got on the scale today. He looked like a totally different person, and you know, it's a few years ago, a lot changes. But Victor Martinez, nicknamed the Brick, 12-4, 5'8", has about a 66.5-inch reach. I was able to see in one of his fights. On a 6-fight win streak, currently on Team Ferreira, and is coming off of 2 knockouts. Knockout in 2019 over Nico Enchevery. Very, very impressive knockout on paper. You do see the actual fight. It was stopped super early. He did drop Nico, but Nico was immediately pulling to guard, it appeared, and the referee just jumped in there and stopped it. Regardless, Victor got the shot on him. It was a pretty good fight until then. Nico Enchevery has gone on to, I believe, win the Fury featherweight title, if I'm not mistaken, or lightweight title. Either way, he's a Fury title holder at this point. Definitely a very notable win. The Manny Muro win. We saw Manny, obviously, over in Bellator. And then knocked out Luis Luna. Standing knockout in his last fight. That was back in December of 2019, nearly the beginning of 2020. So been off for about a year and 8 months here. He looked in tremendous shape at the weigh-ins. I'll try not to talk too much about the weigh-ins. It's just like all of a sudden I have this new information for this time on the Contender Series that I didn't know about last time. So he doesn't look like has not taken off the last year and 8 months. He looks like he's in very good condition. Definitely the thicker of the two opponents. Much shorter reach, though. Much shorter overall. And you could see in the arms that Rosales clearly has reach advantage going into this one. So that definitely, I think, is the real question here. The losses are to Luke Flores, who not bad. Eric Gonzalez, I don't know as well, but appears to be a decent loss. So not terrible. Was supposed to fight Tucker Lutz last year, so UFC keeps signing him. I think that's a good indication that he belongs here, but we'll see. Low Badger Rosales, also known as Jerome Rivera's slightly bigger version, I think. 5'10", 70.5-inch reach, about a 4-inch reach advantage here for Jerome Rivera fighting out CSW Training Center. Is coming off of a win over Jose Martinez. So there's that. Jose Martinez, I don't know if you watched that fight. Jose Martinez looked less than impressive to me. Just I think that not finishing him is a little bit of a question I have for Rosales, especially with how that fight ended up being. It was much closer than it should have been. I get it. Jose Martinez is tough, but I think that's about it. Bryce Logan was a 5-round fight. So that's really good, and it was very close. Bryce Logan did edge it out. That's going to happen with Bryce Logan against a lot of competitors. I don't really edge that too much. This is his second time on the Contender Series. Jonathan Pierce really laid it on him, though. So we're going to know a lot about this after the first couple minutes. I think if he can't keep Victor off him, I think Victor's power and just cage pressure overall should be enough here. Rosales has to find a way to get to the ground, use his jiu-jitsu, I think, or use his movement and distance. Either way, this one's way too close for me. I'm leaning towards Victor Martinez. After seeing the weigh-ins today, he does look significantly thicker. But the length of Rosales and the experience of Rosales is definitely something that's just making me leave this one alone all the way around. I love Rosales. I've researched him a lot. We both have, being LFA guys, and we've probably both been wrong once or twice on him too. So he's tough to read. He's a good fighter, but yeah, I'm just going to lean towards Victor Martinez here.
Yeah, this is an interesting matchup. Definitely going to be close, like you mentioned. Rosales, just 26 years old right now. He has a lot of fights for being, still kind of, I guess you could say, in the younger part of his career. Faced some pretty decent guys, kind of like you mentioned, Tommy Aaron, Justin James, Joshua Jones, Ricardo.
Tommy Aaron's a great fight to point out, by the way.
That was way back in the day, but still, I think that was Tommy Aaron's first pro fight, I think.
Yeah, and they both grew a lot from that fight, but it's a great one to point out for sure.
Yeah, and obviously, we said Jonathan Pierce, Solomon Almadyar, Team Alpha Male guy, Bryce Logan in the 5-rounder, and Jose Martinez most recently. So I will point out he is undefeated against people with the last name Martinez, for what it's worth. Obviously he's a jiu-jitsu black belt. He's a durable guy. Does have some kind of defensive deficiencies in the striking, like he pointed out. He does seem like he's a little bit hittable at times. Victor Martinez currently enjoying a 6-fight win streak. The Manny Muro win, which you pointed out, 2 round 1 knockouts in his last 2. Haven't seen him in the cage since 2019. Losses: Luke Flores, Eric Gonzalez, both pretty good fighters. I don't really think that's cause for concern. We saw him on Fury FC where he was the lightweight champ. He was scheduled, like you said, to fight Tucker Lutz. So this will be kind of his second time under the UFC radar type of thing. And I don't see him having much grappling success with Rosales. He definitely should try to keep this one standing. And I think that he is the better fighter standing. But I'm actually slightly leaning towards the other side in this one. I kind of like the well-roundedness of Rosales. I like the grappling. I like his recent activity. Obviously, you pointed out Martinez looked great today, so I don't really think that's the big issue. These guys are professionals. They're training. But, yeah, I like the strength of schedule, activity level, grappling, well-roundedness. So I'm slightly leaning towards Rosales, but no action here for me.
Yeah, -150 on Rosales, +130 on Martinez. Neither side is enough for me, honestly. I think it's properly lined here with Rosales, as you mentioned, the rhythm here. And, I mean, the 5-round experience, that's huge against Bryce Logan. I mean, that's a very good fighter to go up against. And, yeah, we don't know what Victor Martinez looks like here, but it's nice to start out with a disagreement.
The first one.
Yeah, we agree with the honeymoon is officially over.
Yeah.
The first, show he came on, and he's like, "Oh, I better just agree with Aaron on everything, even though you had already made your pick." But no, I'm just last week it just kind of turned out that way. I love starting out with a disagreement on this fight. I think it makes a lot of sense. I would consider betting Martinez in the +150 to plus, a little bit beyond that range, but +130, I just can't quite go there. I do wonder after the first round how Martinez is going to look also. If this goes into later rounds, I give it to Rosales. And I'm wondering if I'm just too much seeing Jerome Rivera in Jacob Rosales, because even the detriments you put against Rosales are the same ones for Rivera. Fantastic jiu-jitsu, hittable on the feet, throws those naked leg kicks. Like, they really are very similar. But Jerome Rivera won his fight on the Contender Series. You don't got to be UFC caliber to win on the Contender Series. That's
true.
Definitely something to point out here. I might be being a little harsh on Rosales here, but I am going to go with Martinez. And, should be a good way to start out the fight. I think it's one of the best fights on the card. Next fight here, I think is the best fight on the card, though. 125 flyweight. First of all, flyweights fighting in the Contender Series seems kind of dumb to me. I'll be honest. The division could use both these guys, I think, right away. But you're kind of canceling or delaying one out here. But Clayton Rodriguez, hopefully I got that first name right, taking on Santo Curatolo. Very, very, very interesting fight here for sure. The Brazilian versus the fighter out of New Jersey, both about 26 years old. Team Nogueira versus Nick Catone. Santo is Nick Catone, 26 years old, 8 months, 5'3". He's a little guy for sure. He looks like a little powerhouse from how he fights, and came in fantastic condition after just fighting on July 3rd of this year. So in a good rhythm, rebounded from his first loss as a pro. It was a championship fight against Alberto Trujillo, a 4-1 opponent. Happens to be the first time he's been out of round one, and he lost. He got knocked out. I wasn't able to find the Alberto Trujillo fight. I was able to find his last fight against Dishilad Zarapov, which I thought was a very good fight. Difficult opponent for Santo in terms of the frame, the reach, the size of that opponent. So he's beat opponents much bigger than him before. He's 5'3". He's got even at 125. I think he deals with this in most of his fights. I don't think it really bothers him too much. He's definitely the smaller opponent here. Has had a decent start to his pro career. James Mancini, not the worst of opponents. Zarapov, definitely his best win so far. Trujillo, a good fight as well. But at 6-1, it's hard to really say. As an amateur, also went 2-0. Had a couple stoppages, both coming in round 2, but those are 3-minute fights. So we don't know a lot about the gas. I mean, he's finishing all these guys, though, or being finished himself. So it's hard to say. I mean, in 5-6 fights, he only has about two full fights worth of experience with how much he's been in the cage. Clayton Rodriguez, still only 25 years old, 5'6", at least 5'6". He looked huge at the weigh-ins. Five-fight win streak for the Team Nogueira representative. He has been off since October of 2019, where he fought in Jungle Fight and beat Eduardo Henrique da Silva by rear naked choke. He has a one decision win. Other than that, did win all of his fights via finish. I'm not sure about the fight he lost, how he lost it. I couldn't find it. It's from 2015, meaning he was 19 years old. He's been a pro since he was 19. He was supposed to line up to face Jake Hadley, which would have been a ridiculously tough Contender Series fight. I hope they just put Jake Hadley in the UFC. I don't think there's a reason to put him on the Contender Series. Jake Hadley, Cage Warrior representative, very, very good fighter. That would have been tough. I think a tougher fight for Rodriguez. I think this fight's very, very close. But I got trouble, relying on Santo after seeing the weigh-ins. I'll be honest. The weigh-ins were very, very noticeable here. Rodriguez was enormous, not just with regards to the length, but just thickness-wise too. Santo, I have trouble relying on flyweights that have all first-round finishes. That might be holding a little bit of his success against him, but it does lead me to wonder what happens when this fight gets out of the first round. Originally, I saw Santo as a plus 120 underdog, and my eyes lit up, partially because there is a lot more tape on Santo than there is on Rodriguez. From Rodriguez's tape, it's very limited, but he does look very explosive, very well-rounded, and after seeing the weigh-ins, I can't not pick Clayton Rodriguez here. I think that it's a first round or bust for Santo based on what I've seen, but it's one that I'm only going to be betting pretty cautiously because we don't know how Rodriguez is going to look after being off for nearly 2 years. He hasn't fought since October of 2019, but only 25 years old. I believe he did have an injury from what I was able to gather as well, and I know that the Brazilian regional scene was all but held up from last year with Corona. So I do think that we saw with Almeida, we've seen with Brito, a few of these other Brazilians who haven't been able to fight for over a year. When they're looking physically able, they seem to still begin the rounds in somewhere down there. So I'm going to bank on that. I'll bet Rodriguez a little bit, throw him into a parlay, a little double parlay. But yeah, I got Rodriguez here. I just think better overall game, but both 6-1. A lot of room for errors on both.
Yeah, Rodriguez definitely looks really good. 25-year-old prospect out of Brazil on a 5-fight win streak. And I was thinking, he's definitely taller. I was obviously assuming he's going to be longer. Now that we've actually seen him at the weigh-ins, we can definitely confirm that that's the case.
Yes.
I'm not sure what Curatolo's reach is because they don't really list that on CFFC. But yeah, Rodriguez, 83% finish rate. Like you said, haven't seen him since 2019. Jungle Fight flyweight champion. Obviously, the match with Jake Hadley was supposed to happen. Like you mentioned, that was going to be a tough fight. I think this is going to be still pretty tough. I mean, Curatolo's a tough guy. He's coming in like somewhat short notice, not super short notice. Curatolo was supposed to be fighting Fumi Nakuda for the 125-pound belt in CFFC. I was devastated when that got canceled because
that would have been an awesome fight.
Really looking forward to that one. I feel like he could honestly, you could put both the guys in this fight and Nakuda and Jake Hadley, just chuck them all in the division right now.
Yeah,
I mean,
the flyweight division needs like bodies that, Roy Val's throwing himself through a car wreck every time he gets into a fight. So it's like, you've got to build up, and these guys are worthy. I mean, they look very physically able. I mean, Santo looks like an absolute monster too. I just, and I do think it's encouraging that he's able to make the weight on short notice. I think that means he's really staying professional in between fights.
Definitely. And obviously I'm happy to see Curatolo get the call up here for a shot at a contract. Started off his CFFC career with, a bunch of round one finishes, like 4 in a row. Then in his 5th fight, he wins the belt with another round one finish. Obviously gets defeated by Albert Trujillo. And I don't really think that Trujillo is necessarily a better fighter than Curatolo is. It was his day in that fight. But I do still think pretty highly of Curatolo. Obviously, he found himself in the second round for the second time in his pro career. Last fight, earned a KO there. And now it kind of brings us up to present day. Curatolo obviously has a lot of power, has a little bit of wrestling and grappling. He's just really strong at 125 since he's a shorter guy. He can pack on a lot of muscle onto that frame. He's very powerful, aggressive, has a bunch of power at the weight class. And it's difficult to stand with him here. I really, I liked him at the dog money before seeing the weigh-ins, and I'm not going to change my pick off of him, but I'm definitely not going to make that bet anymore after seeing it. Because, like you said, I mean,
this is one of those examples of Vegas knowing a little bit. I just feel like, because before the weigh-ins, I was like, wait, why though? Like, because the level of competition was good for Santo and everything, but I think that there's like definitely just a physical disparity here. So not always, but I think at these lower weight classes, sometimes the physically bigger, more athletic person does win these fights.
Yeah. As soon as he stepped on the scale, I was like, because they have the masks on, it's kind of hard to tell who's who. I was like, who is this guy?
Yes, I thought it was a featherweight.
Yeah,
I thought it was Victor Martinez.
He looked good.
Yeah, so I'm not saying every fight I'm getting one fighter confused with another. Maybe after Almeida last week looking so damn good on the scale and then looking so good, it doesn't always translate that way. I get it, but I'm gonna bank on another Brazilian who went to the juice factory for the last 2 years and comes into the fight, and I'm just saying there's something in the water down there. Plus 110 on Santo, or to plus 115, minus 135, and that is going to get Rodriguez now, because as soon as those pictures come out, Rodriguez is going to be the Mo Miller shifter of this one, where it goes from minus 290 to this is going to be the shifter, I think, because I think this is just going to be the one that people don't do a lot of research on. They see the Instagram picture and they're like, Rodriguez all day, minus 130. And so it'll probably be minus 200, minus 250 by fight time if I had to guess. So I would get him now if you're going to get him. I'm betting him lightly, but Santo's no joke. Really good camp also. And, I mean, just because he's finishing early doesn't mean he has to. He just means he is. So sometimes I have a problem with holding it against fighters. I think a lot of times people hold decisions against fighters kind of the way I hold first-round finishes against fighters. So by no means am I saying it's a perfect way to look at the fight. Next fight here, Steven Nguyen, taking on the newcomer, Theo Liang. He is originally from Vietnam, has a very cool story for sure. But yeah, this one I think is kind of set up a little bit for Steven, if I'm being honest, but I don't think Theo should be taken lightly necessarily. Theo is 5'6", now fighting at Greensboro, North Carolina, 27 years old, 5-0 as a pro, undefeated as well as an amateur. It actually has one loss as an amateur, sorry. It was his debut. Other than that, ended up going 6-1 as an amateur, 5-0 as a pro. His 5 wins are over a 2-3 opponent, an 0-1 opponent, a 3-11 opponent at welterweight, then a 5-7 opponent at featherweight. Last win was over a 4-3 opponent at lightweight. So he's fought once in 2021. He fought 4 times in 2020, so he was very active. Stoppages in all but one of his fights. The featherweight fight he did go to decision. It was kind of funny because he had some fight tape, but one thing he had is he had like a little documentary that was like Road to Contender series, which I got to watch, and it showed him sparring. It showed him kind of ducking his head quite a bit and rolling back, struggling with his longer ranged opponent who was clearly getting him ready for Steve Nguyen. There's a 5-inch reach advantage, or 5-inch height advantage for Steven. I think the reach is even further than that. Liang looks like kind of just a traditional Muay Thai striker with how he throws his leg kicks, how he boxes and everything like that. He's fun to watch. I just think he's a little bit outgunned here. Not sure if he's a lightweight for one. The level of competition hasn't been great. Steven Nguyen, second go around here in Contender Series for the Fortis MMA product. Came back finally from that loss in July of 2019 against Alan Cruz towards the end of the 3rd round by a knockout. Came back and fought George Juarez. George Juarez fought with Bellator. Not the best of opponents, but he put him away in 30 seconds. So, I mean, can't really hate on that too much. Steve Nguyen just looks, once again, it does look like there's quite a size advantage in this fight. I don't mean to always just pick the bigger guy, but I do think Steve Nguyen's also the better, more well-rounded guy. 3 subs, 3 KOs. So by no means like a jiu-jitsu wizard, but if it gets down there, he can finish it. Liang, I think, though, is going to be the one who I think needs to push it into a multifaceted MMA game. I think Liang needs to be able to get takedowns and work the ground game in order to win, and I just don't see that being the route he takes. I think it kind of turns into a war on the feet, and I just think Steve Nguyen gets the finish somewhere inside of if it's set at 2.5, I'd take the under 2.5 just in case Liang kind of comes out like a ball of fire. But I think Steve Nguyen should get a finish within the first 2 rounds, most likely by KO.
Yeah, I like Steve Nguyen here too. Fortis MMA product with a 7-1 record, undefeated amateur career. So he won 11 straight fights, pro and am combined, and then his first taste of adversity was that Alan Cruz flying knee on Contender Series in 2019.
Crazy fight.
Yeah, crazy fight. And so he's making a second appearance on the show. So that, the UFC likes him. They're bringing him back in here. And after that setback, he comes back on LFA. I'm sure we both know. 30-second knockout. Looks great. He's got an 86% finish rate. 3 KOs, 3 subs, like you mentioned. Has that knockout power. More of a striker than a grappler, but he can pull out some moves in a pinch and wrap up a sub like you've shown us in the past. And Liang, on the other hand, undefeated prospect, 6-1 amateur career, turned pro just last year and already has 5 fights. So a lot of experience in a short period of time there, 80% finish rate. Hasn't been fighting, the best competition. Their combined records of all his opponents is 14-25. 4 out of his 5 opponents have had losing records. He just hasn't had that tough test yet. And I think that Nguyen is really going to be able to test him here. It's not to say that Liang can't pull it out, but it's going to be really tough. This is going to be by far his toughest fight, and it's going to be on a big stage as well. Liang, obviously, he's pretty decent standing, has some good kicks, but like you brought up, I think it really wouldn't hurt him to try to get this fight down and, like you said, work the ground game, get some ground and pound, do some damage down there. But yeah, both these guys like to finish early, kind of similar game plan. And I just think Nguyen is better at doing that. Trains at a better gym, bigger guy, experience advantage, and I just think he's a better fighter. So I actually bet on Steven Nguyen in this one at -190.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's moving up now, -195 on DraftKings. I see it at by far the cheapest. It's now -230 across the board everywhere else, +190 for Theo. And yeah, I think Theo would really surprise him if he makes this overall MMA game, but I just think he's going to come in here and make it a Muay Thai fight. And be on the short end of that stick. I mean, if you do go and watch the kind of his little hype road to contenders video and watch him in the sparring, he is bowing out and has been bowing right into the end of straight rights, which Nguyen's going to just have a massive reach advantage here. And I think that kind of the next 2 fights, without giving away my pick for the Nikolai fight, similar types of deals for the opponents, where if the opponent can mix it up, that would be their best route, but I have not seen evidence that the opponents really do that yet with regards to Theo and then Michael Morales, who we'll talk about in a second here. But yeah, Theo does that. I mean, Steve Nguyen on his back, I haven't seen too much evidence of anything too wild there, but I haven't seen the wrestling game of Theo either. I do think this is a tough one. Theo, I think most likely is a feather or bantamweight. I get he's fought at welterweight, but that was against a 3-11 opponent, and yeah, it's a tough one for Theo. They seem to really want to see Steven Nguyen in the next level with regards to Contender Series. He won 1 fight in 30 seconds on LFA, and he got right back. So we shall see. Next fight here is at 185 pounds. Another guy that we're pretty familiar with here in Nikolai Venture-Nemkov, taking on the lesser-known but very impressive record-wise 21-year-old Ecuadorian undefeated fighter Michael Morales. So, yeah, super impressed by him. And he's a young 21. He's 21 in 2 months. Really crazy, 6'3", taking on the 6'2", 74-inch reach out of Kazakhstan, now fighting on Texas. Nikolai Baron Tenekov, I probably said that wrong the first time, but 9-3 overall for Nikolai here. Fighter we both broken down with LFA and Fury over their last few fights. Very good record for Nikolai. Austin Jones and Steve Jones are very good wins both. The Steve Jones win did show the way you beat Nikolai, get out of the first round and wrestle with him. I think if Steve Jones would have just started that plan a little bit earlier, I think that he would have won that fight. Steve Jones is a guy with 0 submissions on his record also, and he was able to kind of dominate the ground once it got there for Nikolai. Nikolai just kind of held on from the ground, from the bottom. There was no bottom game at all. If Nikolai does win this fight and get into UFC, he's going to have a lot of trouble, in my opinion, because the way to beat Nikolai is there. Extend him out of that first round, wrestle him. But there's a real danger to wrestling Nikolai because of his clinch game is nasty. The knees are brutal to the body and to the face, and stopped multiple fights that way. He stopped Anthony Ivy that way back in May. Now, we saw Anthony Ivy. We saw that. I don't know if there's been a UFC fighter who hates getting hit more than Anthony Ivy in the last 10 years. I still can remember picking him over Christian Aguilera and then seeing him like shatter mentally when he got punched one time through the guard. So Anthony Ivy by no means is a durable opponent. I think that Nikolai, let me see if they have the odds here. They don't, but I know Nikolai was like a 3-1, 4-1 favorite in that fight. It was Nikolai hit him, he will go down. Nikolai hit him, he did go down. So I was frankly more impressed with the Steve Jones and Austin Jones wins. I think both those were really impressive. Win over Charlie Ontiveros, who got slammed by Kevin Holland and then failed a drug test. So he was in the UFC, technically. Like he was signed on like 3 days notice. So it's like, yes, he has a UFC win, but like it's about as non-UFC win as possible. Charlie actually is on the Contender Series, I think next week or in 2 weeks, because they're like, let's see if this guy really should be here or not. So still, I mean, he got a win there, finished him again with knees to the body. So there's 2 or 3 wins on his career. Had a tough stretch back in 2014 over with M1. He lost to a few different fighters, albeit, it was at middleweight, I think, for one of them, and then lightweight for the other one. Only 5 months between those fights, too. So what the hell was going on with Nikolai's professional career in 2014? I have no idea. To go from lightweight to middleweight, and now he's a huge welterweight. He's massive, though. But yeah, this is just a really, tough. I think this is going to be a tough fight for Michael Morales. Honestly, yes, he's 11-0, really good striking, very slick striking. Has a very, very tall stance. Looks very confident in there, but he's facing very, very low level of competition on the Ecuadorian scene here. Last fought in April of this year, beat a guy who just didn't look very good. Actually, in between rounds, he was crying from getting hit, which I haven't seen a lot. But the corner's like, is he crying in the corner? Did he get poked in the eye? And then the other announcer was like, I think it's just from a punch. So that was the last opponent that Michael makes his opponents cry, but that might also be a level of competition thing. Ricardo Centineo, a lot of very small kind of opponents, and some decent records, but no one of note here. He is pretty much exclusively a striker too, so I think it's pretty dangerous. First 7.5 minutes for Nikolai. Nikolai would get it. I think Nikolai gets it done under 1.5 rounds here by knockout. But if Michael shows some wrestling in this and puts Nikolai onto his back, particularly after the first round, he looks easier to take down, but easier said than done. I'm going to go with Nikolai to get the finish here, but I'd love to see Michael Morales win this fight. I think he's a way more interesting prospect. I just don't think Nikolai does a whole lot at the next level against UFC level opponents. I think Michael Morales has real potential, even if he loses this fight too. So 21 years old, 11-0. I think we kind of see this similarly, I assume. But yeah, I would lean toward Nikolai here.
Yeah, I actually think we see this one very similarly, actually. Michael Morales, undefeated Ecuadorian prospect, 91% finish rate, 11-0 record. That's very impressive, especially at the age of 21. His combined opponent record isn't great. It's 28-22, but it's not terrible. I mean, he's 21 years old. He has 11 fights.
Right.
Who do we really expect that he's going to be fighting at this point? I think that he's an extremely legitimate prospect, but 21 is just sometimes a little bit too young for that next level. Like in other sports, you can be kind of elite at that level, but it's just difficult when, physical maturity and stuff is so important in MMA. And there's going to be, and you can tell, there's a big difference in the physical attributes that a grown man like Nikolai Veretennikov has, and then a 21-year-old in great shape, might I add. I'm not trying to take anything away from Morales, but it's different. And that's just a fact. But you can really tell that this guy's part of that new generation where they aren't just training in one discipline growing up. They're getting a more full experience. He's a slick striker, pretty good feints. And I think that we are 100% going to see him in a major promotion one day. I don't know if tomorrow night is going to be that day. Veretennikov training out of Texas by way of Kazakhstan, 9-3 record, but 3 of those losses were in his first 4 fights. He hasn't lost in 7 years now. He's won 8 straight, 78% finish rate, 7 knockouts, good striking attack, hits really hard, some nice low kicks, patient, but still, a clinical striker. Wins over Anthony Ivy, Steve Jones, Charlie Ontiveros, all the guys we mentioned. And definitely, not built like a 21-year-old. We can say that. He looked really good on the scales. Veretennikov is good. He's never really wowed me. Like, I'm not amazed by him, but I think that his veteran savvy can get the job done against Michael Morales. I think Morales is probably the better, prospect overall. Yeah. But I just don't think that tonight or tomorrow night is necessarily going to be his night. I think Morales will come back bigger, faster, stronger, better in the future. But I think Veretennikov's going to have his number this time. So that's the way I'm leaning here.
Yeah, I'm not betting this at all. Minus 235 on Nikolai. I think.
Yeah, I'm not touching that either.
Like, first of all, I want to see Michael Morales win. So I do. I am rooting for Michael Morales in this fight. I just think it's much more exciting. Give Cheeto a little, give Cheeto a little bit of company. And it's just like, because like he does remind me a lot of kind of these South American strikers who are really aggressive. Like I would not be surprised if he said like a Cheeto Vera is one of his favorite fighters, because that's what I saw a lot of the shades of in that fight. So it's like very interesting. But I think guys like Chase Hooper have won at 20-21 on Contender Series. They're facing much worse opponents than Nikolai. Nikolai is ready-made. Nikolai is ready-made. I was frankly surprised to see Nikolai have to fight on the Contender Series to get in, just based on the last 3 opponents he's beaten are very legitimate. And so, I just think this is a tough draw, and it'll be interesting because maybe Michael Morales just slides over to Bellator, slides over to PFL, and UFC's like, oh, whoops, we did it again. We did the Mike Davis in the Contender Series against Sadiq Youssef. We did there's been a lot of very good prospects lost just too soon, but go Michael Morales. I am not betting this one, but my pick is Nikolai. Honestly, this fight is the only fight where I'm really rooting one side heavily. I'd love to see Morales come out there and get a huge win. So we'll see. But Nikolai's no joke. I think that Nikolai deserves, while I agree, he doesn't do anything that impresses you, yet he wins these fights impressively. It's very, very odd with Nikolai. And then, like the weigh-ins today, he did look very, very thick compared to his opponent. We'll go ahead and move on to the main event here. Hashim Arkhagha. I'm just going to go with Hashim against AJ Dobson. That's easy enough. AJ is my nickname too, so good for you, AJ Dobson. Won't be coming into a factor with my breakdown here, but Arkhagha is that guy's last name. AJ Dobson here, 29 years old. I believe Hashim, I couldn't find an age. He's in his mid-30s at this point, though. I know that much. So AJ Dobson will be the younger opponent here, 5-0. 5-fight win streak. Got Carlson Gracie in Ohio, 6'2". Has, I believe, a 79.5-inch reach I saw from his strike hard fight against Kalen Hill. Lasted 35 seconds. But he did really look very, very determined. He looked like kind of reminds me of like a little longer, slimmer Cannonier with how he threw those bombs and just absolutely put Kalen Hill away against the cage. It was a really impressive win. That's coming off of a 24-second rear naked choke before that. Those fights were in 2018, and then November 2020. He's been off for nearly a year now. He was supposed to fight in March at LFA 101. I'm not sure what happened with that fight, but it was taken off. He's won all of his fights by finish except for one decision. He's been at 185 his whole career. The Kalen Hill fight, obviously the most notable there, but Kalen Hill only 4-2 now. We don't really know how good he is, but the Seth Bass fight got stopped very quickly from an accidental poke from A.J. Dobson, but he looked like he was on his way to putting Seth Bass away as well. But yeah, not the highest level of competition. 1-0, 2-1, 0-0, 2-1, 7-10, and now 4-1. Kalen Hill looks like he could be a prospect, but we don't know again at 4-1, and with that knockout, we really don't know. Hashem Arkhagha is 6-2 as well. 6-fight winning streak for the Jordanian fighter. He's got a whole lot of unnotable wins here. Ibrahim El Salwai, I was able to watch that fight. That was very entertaining, but it was, I believe, at heavyweight. It was in 2012. He then took off 7 years before facing Jeremy Smith with Brave CF. Jeremy Smith, 9-5. Got starched in 35 seconds, so both these guys have 35-second impressive knockouts on their resume. His last fight out was with UAE Warriors in September of 2020 against a Brazilian who was 13-11 at the time, Yuri Fraga. Put him away in the first round. Yuri Fraga, though, I believe, is on a 5-fight losing streak. He lost his next fight too. He actually lost 2 straight before winning the previous 2, so got him confused with another guy here, but either way, this is a kind of who the fuck knows fight. Hashem been off a lot, fought very inconsistent competition, takes off a year between 35-second wins. I don't really know what to think here. It's got a lot of gray in that beard now from the weigh-ins, so he's upper 30s here. Doesn't look that impressive, yet hits very, very hard. This is one that I don't really, I've liked what I've seen out of Dobson. I like the athleticism that I think is going to be on Dobson's side, speed, rhythm. So I'm going to lean towards A.J. Dobson here. But, I mean, this other Jordanian Hashem guy, he could just kind of be one of those crazy, magical kind of fighters who doesn't have to fight a lot and for whatever reason took time off. But I'm going to go with the regularity of A.J. Dobson fighting over in the States. I believe this will be Hashem's U.S. debut as well, so that's a real unknown kind of factor as well. So I'm going to go Dobson.
Yeah, Arkhagha, so, I mean, he gets off to a 4-0 start on the Jordanian regional scene, and then we don't see him again for almost 7 years after that. Yeah. Returns in 2019, fights again in 2020, brings him to 6-0 overall. And, not really the greatest strength of schedule ever. The last 2 fights were on Brave and UAE Warriors, which are good promotions, but he wasn't really fighting the best guys in those promotions. I want to say he has a 100% finish rate. A couple of his older fights don't have a method of victory listed on Tapology, but I'm assuming it's a whole lot of knockouts just from, what we've seen. Definitely has some power. Like that knockout against Jeremy Smith on Brave was something serious. Like both their
35-second knockouts were nasty. Both guys had like a real nasty knockout.
Yeah. And, I mean, I guess we can say there was no ring rust after the big layoff in that one, but it's a 35-second fight, so it's really hard to take anything from that. He doesn't look extremely powerful when you watch him on the eye test, but he has those firm shots. They're very accurate, precise, calculated, and they definitely do damage, and, the proof is in the pudding for that. Good footwork, pretty good movement, good patience, and you can tell that he is a high IQ fighter at this level. I believe he's a BJJ black belt because I don't know if you watched one of the fights on YouTube where the ring announcer's speaking Arabic and she says something in Arabic and then she says Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So
I did hear that.
I'm assuming maybe that's what she meant. I'm going to assume.
Yeah, they wouldn't be like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu purple belt. Although albeit it's Jordan where it's like he's taking a Jiu-Jitsu class. It might be one of those. We don't really know.
So I'm going to assume he has pretty good grappling. I mean, we've seen him get a little bit of top control like as a result of a knockdown, but we don't really know that much. Definitely doesn't look to be in the same kind of physical shape as AJ Dobson, which you pointed out. And now, he missed weight today. So that's going to be another factor. Like, the cardio for him is kind of a red flag for me, not necessarily because I think it's going to be bad, just because we don't really know that much. And he definitely doesn't look to be as good of an athlete as AJ Dobson, just on the eye test, and tough weight cut might have an impact. Dobson, 5-0 record, 5-1 amateur career, bunch of round one knockouts, 80% finish rate. Good striker, comes forward, backs you up, has that little push kick that he utilizes, good hand speed, really quick right cross. And, we've seen a little bit of wrestling from him. I feel like maybe that could be a bit of an X factor in this fight. I don't really know what Arkhagha is going to look like there. But yeah, I will say I believe Dobson's going to be more athletic, more physical. And both fighters kind of have a similar style. They want to finish it early. They come out and they throw hard. I think fight doesn't go is probably the safest play here. I doubt you're getting any good value on that, considering I believe
minus 250, minus 300. I bet it's at minus 1.5 already.
Yeah, exactly.
A great indicator.
I mean, Dobson, like you said, has been more consistently active over his career. Hasn't had any big layoffs. I'm going to lean slightly towards the dog here with you. Close matchup with a lot of unknowns, and I just can't see myself having any betting exposure on this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a little shot at Dobson after the weight miss. I saw him at plus 120. I like that price quite a bit.
Yeah, I think that's a great price.
Yeah, so I do think it will possibly shift by tomorrow, but we'll see. I have at plus 120, minus 145 for Hashem. That would be my second dog on the card. We both have two dogs. Did you have Santo or Rodriguez? Sorry.
Well, I made my picks last night, and I have Santo, and then I mean, watching the weigh-ins, I'm not going to play that, but I'm not going to.
Okay, yeah, you're not going to be the weigh-in guy. All right. Well, I had Santo before the weigh-ins also, so I will be that weigh-in guy. So, but yeah, two underdogs for me: Victor Martinez and Dobson. Go Michael Morales. Please prove me wrong, but I think Nikolai is gonna do what he should as a veteran there. But yeah, I mean, talking through these fights, again, the weakest of the 4 weeks here, and it's still damn good fights. I think there's 2 to 3 guys very worthy of contracts. Probably 4 or 5 guys will get contracts. So it is what it is. But yeah, that will conclude us for week 4's breakdown. We will be having a LFA breakdown on the channel here towards the end of the week. Those odds come out a little later, so probably Thursday night for that, or Wednesday if they come out. Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Also, Bunny, Boston Comments, Brian Pooh Bear Battle, and I back for UFC 266, headlined by Alexander Volkanovski's first main event ever. What the fuck?
Is it really?
Yeah. Yes.
I didn't even think about it. I didn't even realize that.
Yes, they kept putting him on the double title, triple title fight.
Yeah, like now that I think about it, I'm like, oh yeah, he was.
Yeah, it's his first headlining, and it seems that there's a lot of love for Ortega. We're a Team Volkanovski podcast here. Brian fucking Battle is my co-host.
Oh yeah, of course.
Come on, but either way, Volk all day. I've had a bet on Volkanovski and Robbie Lawler for quite a while now. I am not picking Nick Diaz. I'm sorry. I love Nick Diaz, but Robbie Lawler is going to destroy Nick Diaz if that fight actually happens. But we'll be talking about that Wednesday at 8 p.m. Go check out Lucky Locks MMA for all LFA. I don't know if your LFA is up yet, but I'm sure that will be up soon.
That will be for sure.
Yep, exactly. So he's got much shorter, much more succinct. If you only got 15, 20 minutes, those are for you. Mine, I talk my ass off for 45 minutes. I can talk about these all day. But hopefully the information was appreciated. Miz, appreciate you coming out. As always, Miz, you're a legend. Miz, go check out Lucky Locks picks as well. Go give him some love as well. But everybody, thank you so much. Enjoy your day. If you're a football fan, you get to watch the embarrassment that is the Detroit Lions tonight. My fucking team play the Green Bay Packers.
Hey, I'm a Jets fan, so don't worry about that.
Brothers and more here. So we're both in pain. But for Aaron the Dog, for Lucky Locks Picks MMA, keep taking care of each other out there. Enjoy the fights tomorrow, everybody.